Part 45. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 441. Pa pa pa, pa pa pa, pa pa pa. This is not an action movie from Japan, this is a battle. In the arena, the second brother charged at the gorilla again and again. In most cases, the gorilla could use its agility to dodge the attack, turn around and move, and make full use of the advantages of primates. It suddenly hit the second brother with a stick, making the second brother scream in anger. But the second brother was definitely not easy to mess with. With its thick skin and flesh, it didn't care about the beating with the big stick at all. It was not like a weak little girl who couldn't stand being hit by a stick and cried out. The fierce beating stimulated its fighting spirit. The gorilla was relatively strong. It had no physical advantage in front of the second brother. Once, it was hit in the chest by the second brother without paying attention. Its huge body flew backwards and almost fell off the arena. Fortunately, its chainmail was a real metal shell with a shock-absorbing sponge lining, which offset most of the impact of the second brother, otherwise it would have made him vomit blood. Even so, the breastplate on the gorilla's chest also collapsed and was completely deformed. The duration of this battle was unexpectedly long, more than twice as long as a battle, more than 10 minutes. In the final stage, the gorilla changed its strategy and stopped beating the second brother with the golden hoop. It jumped into the air and jumped onto the back of the second brother. Under normal circumstances, the gorilla's behavior is to seek death. In the wild boars can crash into the ground or a tree, fighting to hurt both sides and kill the creatures on their backs. You know, wild boars are more resistant to collisions than most animals. Even if a big bear and a wild boar hit the wall at the same time, the unlucky one will definitely be the bear. But the second brother in the field was stunned and did not resist at all. Since it met Suming, it has been used to being a mount. When the gorilla rode on its back, the second brother suddenly felt very kind and familiar. In the stunned eyes of all the tourists, the second brother shook his short tail, and the fierce look just now completely disappeared. He also hummed comfortably, holding the gorilla on his back, and walked leisurely on the arena. "Big pig, be careful," a child shouted with concern from the sidelines. The gorilla had raised his fist and was about to hit the back of the second brother's head. The tourists who saw the scene were suddenly worried. Although everyone hoped that Sun Wukong would win, since the second brother had already admitted defeat, if the gorilla still wanted to fight, or attacked from behind, it would be inconsistent with the image of a hero in their minds. Although in the original work, Sun Wukong attacked from behind and used the trick of cutting off the firewood from the bottom of the pot, it was still very different from the great and glorious image in the later TV series. Seeing that the gorilla's fist was about to fall, the second brother was still unaware. He was shaking his head and carrying the eldest brother on his back, walking around the arena as if he was inspecting. The gorilla's fist finally fell. At the moment when it was about to hit the back of the second brother's head, the gorilla suddenly loosened his clenched fist, opened his big palm like a human, grinned, and rubbed the back of the second brother's head. "Hoo hoo!" the second brother shouted happily. The gorilla opened his big mouth and laughed at the audience around him, but his smile was quite scary, with a mouth full of burnt yellow fangs. The first game of the first martial arts competition in the zoo officially ended, and the gorilla won and advanced. The defeated second brother did not feel sad at all, but met a new friend, the gorilla. After the game, the two of them wandered around the zoo accompanied by Suming. It seems that there will be another group of gorillas in the team going to the back mountain for release in the future. The number of occasional and cosplay costumes in the canteen is more than doubled compared to last time, but they were all sold out in less than half the time of last time. There is also a big sign at the door of the canteen, saying that the zoo will launch the Darwin Woolen series of dolls, which are tailor-made for the contestants. Collecting a set of dolls will give you the opportunity to take a photo with the leader of this year's Woolen, that is, the final champion of the competition. Dear audience, The zoo has held 2 competitions so far. In the live broadcast of the TV, Li Jingjing faced the camera and slowly spoke. In these 2 competitions, we saw wonderful battles, found our past feelings, and brought us unexpected happy times. But the most surprising, or touching, is the last scene of the 2 competitions. The players on the field ended the battle in a heartwarming way. If even animals can live together with such love, then what reason do we humans have to hurt each other? Li Jingjing probably has a bit of literary temperament. As she spoke, even she was moved. Su Ming was also very satisfied with the result. Doing such a fun and heartwarming project is not only liked by tourists, but also he himself, as the party involved and planner, is actually quite comfortable in his heart. Intrigues in the business world and politics are forced, but few people are born to like dark things. If you can choose, life bathed in the sun is happier. Anzhihu, a famous blogger, wrote an article specifically for this competition. Let your clenched fist turn into a caressing palm. The moment when the gorilla finally changed its fist into a palm was captured by a photography enthusiast with a long lens and posted on the internet. Overnight, the photo spread all over the country, and even foreign websites reposted it. Several years ago, there was a movie called Watchmen based on real historical events. At the beginning of the movie, a group of soldiers pointed guns at a group of civilians. A little girl walked out of the civilians, and a white flower was inserted into the muzzle of the gun, and then the soldiers opened fire. This picture was later called Flowers and Guns, which was deeply imprinted in people's minds and was considered one of the most touching propaganda for anti-war and peace. If it were not for the movie picture, the picture would be fully qualified to win the Pulitzer Prize for journalism. At this time, the sensational effect of this photo called Fist into Palm has caught up with Flowers and Guns in just a few days. Many people directly proposed on the internet that this photo should apply for Pulitzer, be included in the National Geological magazine, and be passed down forever as a precious spiritual wealth. Love and peace are always worthy of praise and remembrance. Even if the truth of this world is not like this. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 442. In some emotions, all human beings share common feelings, such as yearning for peace, cherishing family affection, and devoting themselves to love. These emotions from the depths of the hearts of intelligent creatures can transcend the boundaries of race, faith, and even language, and resonate with everyone. Seattle National Geographic Magazine Seattle Branch. Editor-in-Chief Mr. Jack pushed open the door of his office with a tired face, and 2 dark circles like pandas on his face. He yelled at the secretary outside the door in a somewhat ungraceful manner, "Nikki, where's the coffee? Damn it, do you want me to rely on smoking marijuana to stay awake?" Black Secretary Nikki, like Mr. Jack, also stayed up all night and was dealing with the emails while resisting sleepiness. When she heard the boss's scolding, Nikki's thick lips pursed helplessly. If a month ago, oh no, even just a week ago, White Jack dared to speak loudly to Black Nikki, or even cursed "damn it," even if Jack was the editor-in-chief of the branch and the immediate superior, Nikki would not let him off easily. A word of racial discrimination would make Jack lose face and be scolded by the media. There are many strange phenomena in America, such as political correctness. Although everyone knows that racial discrimination exists deeply and most white people do look down on black people from the bottom of their hearts, few people, especially famous people, dare to say it directly. However, due to the special situation of the magazine, Nikki chose to ignore the word "damn," made a face behind Mr. Jack, and then quickly left his seat and ran to the lounge to make coffee for Mr. Jack. At this time, the entire National Geographic magazine, whether it is the headquarters or the branches, thousands of employees, everyone is working hard to keep their jobs, and they are in a terrible mood, and Mr. Jack is no exception. Founded in 1888, National Geographic magazine has a glorious history and present. It is the most well-known magazine in the world. The content of the magazine is high-quality articles about society, history, and customs around the world. Its printing and picture quality standards are also praised by people. In the past 100 years, it has always been among the top 10 best-selling publications in the United States. Just as Suming has always adhered to the principle of content is king in China, the reason why National Geographic magazine has become a world-renowned best-selling magazine and is even considered a temple for photographers and subjects is closely related to the strict selection rate of up to 1,000th and the editor's almost paranoid professional attitude. A large number of excellent photographers and journalists full of ideals and romanticism were born here. Only works with soul and passion can be published in the magazine. Therefore, in the eyes of most readers, National Geographic magazine means authority, science, and quasi-officialism. It is more like an encyclopedia than just a magazine. This is very similar to the Guinness World Records that Suming once appeared in. Just last month, 21st Century Fox announced the acquisition of National Geographic magazine and announced a large-scale layoff plan. About one-third of the magazine's employees will be laid off, and even the editors-in-chief of each branch will face strict assessment. Capitalism has its superiority, but it also has its more cruel side. If it were in China, even if such a century-old news unit was restructured and changed its owner, the government would definitely find a good way out for most employees, at least a way out that can barely survive. But this problem does not exist in National Geographic. A meager compensation can make these veterans who have worked in the magazine for half their lives go away. Without income, mortgages, car loans, insurance, a series of problems will follow one after another, and the bank will take away everything from you without mercy. In the United States, there are countless examples of the middle class becoming destitute overnight due to losing their jobs. So now at this critical moment, who can care about a word damn? There is an automatic coffee machine, a ping-pong table, and a row of large sofas in the lounge, which are usually used for the magazine staff to rest. Recently, the magazine is facing layoffs, and the employees are busy and exhausted. How can they waste time drinking coffee and chatting in the lounge, so the entire lounge is empty? Nikki made a cup of black coffee that was 3 points darker than her skin. When she was about to leave, she suddenly found a photo on the coffee machine. The editors of the magazine sometimes discuss work in the lounge. The photo was printed out in color from the computer. The surrounding area was soaked with water. It was probably left here by a careless editor. These careless men, Nikki muttered. Nikki not only inherited the exaggerated hot body of black people, but also looked as good as some popular black Hollywood female stars. The key is that she also has a serious cleanliness obsession, so she picked up the photo and prepared to throw it into the trash can. She absolutely can't stand a messy working environment where everything is thrown around. But after just one look at the photo, Nikki was stunned and deeply attracted by the content of the photo. In the photo, there is a gorilla wearing gorgeous battle robes and armor, riding on the back of an exaggerated wild boar. From the posture, the chimpanzee has fierce eyes and is about to attack the wild boar, but the huge fist stays on the back of the wild boar's head. This photo is actually a set of 3 consecutive individual photos. In the second photo, the gorilla's fist has opened and turned into a palm, and his eyes have softened significantly. In the third photo, the gorilla's palm gently strokes the back of the wild boar's head. Perhaps it was the photographer's superb skills, or perhaps the expressions of the gorilla and the wild boar were so rich, Nikki even felt that she could clearly feel the changes in the emotions of the two animals from these 3 photos, especially the third one, which formed a sharp contrast with the first one. The gorilla's eyes were particularly gentle, without any aggression at all, while the wild boar showed complete trust and joy. These stupid men. Nikki had been a secretary in a magazine for 3 years, and she still had the most basic vision. She could see at a glance that this photo was definitely qualified to be published in the magazine. If there was a good editor to add text, it would be no problem to be on the cover of this issue. I don't know which little editor with no vision actually treated it as garbage and threw it in the lounge. Bang, the door of the lounge was pushed open heavily from the outside, and Jack strode in with red eyes, shouting angrily, "God, Nikki, what are you doing? Does it take a century to make a cup of coffee? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 443. The title of the previous chapter was wrong, it should be chapter 441, this chapter is 442. Mr. Jack, look at this. Nikki raised her head, handed the photo to editor Jack, and said, I think this group of photos has great potential. Aren't you having a headache for the cover of the next issue? Nikki, do your job well. You are the secretary, not the editor. You don't need to worry about the content of the magazine. Jack said this, but out of professional habit, he still took the photo and took a look. His eyes fell on the photo. Jack's behavior was exactly the same as Nikki's just now. There was an unexpected light in his eyes, and he was immediately attracted by the content of the photo. Huh? Where did you get the photo? Jack didn't wait for Nikki to answer, he stared at the photo and said to himself, judging from the background and some details, it should be the East, Japan. Oh no, it should be it's China. Nikki didn't say anything, and handed the coffee to Jack with a I knew it would be this kind of praise. Jack waved his hand, indicating that it was not necessary for the time being. He walked to the sofa and sat down, staring at the photos, and continued to mutter to himself, obviously, what this set of photos wants to reflect is peace and friendship. The gorilla doesn't know why, but gave up attacked. Well, Nikki, you are lucky. We can find the person who took the photo and the place where the incident occurred, and restore the story at that time. Maybe it will be a good subject. Nikki, who had been ignored, shrugged, and took a sip of coffee. These arrogant white people are always like this, acting as if they are right. Even if black people have made achievements, they simply ignore it and attribute it to luck. At this moment, the door to the lounge was pushed open heavily from the outside, and a young white male editor with blonde curly hair and eyes rushed in urgently. Oh, Mr. Editor-in-Chief, you are here. What's the matter? Jack was looking at the photos. He raised his head displeasedly when he was interrupted, and frowned at the young editor. Charlie Hebdo's headquarters in Paris suffered a vicious terrorist attack, with the announced death toll reaching 12, and Al-Qaeda in Arabia claimed responsibility. The curly-haired editor said this almost without pause. What? A terrorist attack? Paris. Charlie Hebdo. Jack shook his fist heavily and stood up from the sofa suddenly. This was simply perfect shooting material falling from the sky. Any one of these keywords is enough to support the cover of a magazine, let alone gathering together. Very good. Jack yelled subconsciously, but immediately realized the mistake in his words, coughed, and said seriously, Nikki, you go book a flight ticket now, the sooner the better, I will personally take people to Paris. Okay sir. Nikki nodded. Then, where are these photos? Jack looked at the photos of wild boars and gorillas in his hand, and handed them to Nikki. I'll leave them here for you first, and we'll talk about it later when we have the chance. After that, he strode out of the lounge and said to the curly-haired man who was following behind him. The editor said, you come with me. Nikki shrugged, put the photo into the pocket of her suit, and left the lounge. The terrorist attack in Paris soon appeared in reports in China. Although there were some sighs, it did not cause any major fluctuations. After all, thousands of miles away, Chinese people had almost no knowledge of Charlie Hebdo before. If it weren't for this terrorist attack, almost no one would know about this satirical cartoon magazine that specializes in pungent and bold religious and political themes. After reading the news reports, Many people also felt that Charlie Hebdo was just a man who wanted nothing more than to commit suicide. Why did you laugh at Al-Qaeda and your beliefs? Religious fanatics are lunatics, and mocking his beliefs is worse than raping his mother, which is, of course, also very bad. All in all, this terrorist attack did not cause much sensation in the country, it was just a casual chat after dinner. The Chinese government is actually very good at dealing with terrorist organizations. No matter how they behave, the fact is that terrorist organizations that are a scourge around the world have not caused any harm to civilians in China. So Chinese people generally don't take terrorists or its bases seriously. If they dare to come to China, the urban management troops will destroy them in minutes. Yangchuan City's attention was all drawn to the third competition. According to the plan, the snapping turtle versus the overlord python will restore an ancient legend about Suan Wu. If nothing unexpected happens, the overlord python and the snapping turtle will end up united and live happily together from then on, never to be separated for the rest of their lives. Can't separate even if I want to. This match has not yet been held, but the tournament has already passed the first 2 matches and has gained a lot of fame. Even the barking beast in the capital knew about it and called specifically to congratulate him. The phone call was fake. At the end of the phone call, he asked by the way if he was interested in making a movie. This bald, middle-aged, wretched man has never stopped dreaming of making movies. In the second half of the year, his contract with his previous investors will be full and he will become a free agent. Su Ming could understand Ming Xiao's thoughts, and he and Ming Xiao were considered friends. If Ming Xiao was short of money, it would be easy to negotiate a loan of several $100,000, but it was impossible for him to disrupt his plans and go to shoot rashly just because of his words. Movie. As the old saying goes, it's not the right time to make movies now. However, various attractions in the zoo are almost completed, and the venue for the martial arts competition is also ready. If the beast is willing, he can come to film a scene or film a small show. Ming Xiao's last tone couldn't hide his disappointment, and he repeatedly told Su Ming that if he wanted to, he could contact him at any time. The third battle finally started. The snapping turtle versus the overlord python was a swamp battle. The battle took place in a shoal of Shuahun Lake. After the battle, the shoal was in a mess, with huge pits made by the snapping turtle and countless cracks made by the body of the overlord python, just like the devastated and broken world after the Great War. Among the audience of this issue, there was also a group of professional and semi-professional photography enthusiasts, who specially obtained the permission of the zoo to set up long guns and short cannons around the competition venue to capture every moment of the competition. After the third competition ended, a retro style of traditional culture suddenly arose at the Yangchuan City Forum. The first few competitions in the zoo's martial arts tournament all followed the retro style route, not to mention the zoo itself. The buildings in the park, such as Tingfeng Pavilion, Ming and Qing Residence, Tingfeng Shui Pavilion and many other buildings, are all antique. Not to mention the ancient Moon Immortal Residence in the back mountain, the ancient tombs under construction, and the unfinished Lanruo Temple hot spring are completely like a story in a Chinese fairy tale. Director, didn't you say last time that the selection of 4A and 5A scenic spots requires cultural characteristics? Isn't this a ready-made cultural characteristic? Sister Tong asked. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 444. Last time, the zoo didn't have much trouble in selecting a 3A scenic spot. A few office clerks sorted out some materials and sent them up, and they were quickly approved. The big gold-plated sign of 3A demonstration scenic spot is still in the storage box in Sister Tong's office. According to regulations, the sign should be hung out, but Su Ming thought it was too embarrassing to hang a 3A sign, so he didn't let it be hung, and it has been hidden in the box gathering dust. For the matter of selecting a demonstration scenic spot, the staff of the zoo, including Sister Tong, are more enthusiastic than the director Su Ming. In fact, Even if it is rated as 5A, the employees will not get a salary increase, but people don't live entirely for money. Now the overall income of the zoo has increased significantly compared to before. On the premise that the material conditions are basically met, they will shift their attention to the superstructure, such as obtaining honors. On the other hand, if it is really rated as 4A or even 5A, there will be no salary increase, but the additional income brought to the zoo will benefit everyone in the zoo. The hardware of the zoo is not up to standard at present. Just as Lauhi said at the beginning, if you want to be rated, you must have very distinctive cultural characteristics. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Su Ming looked like he was sitting back and fishing, not worrying at all. He understood that for these domestic selections, enterprises cannot beg the government. The more you beg the government, the more the government will evade, humming, one problem on the left and one difficult problem on the right. 4A and 5A are decided by the National Tourism Administration. The Yangchuan municipal government, including Wang Jianxi, can only play a role of recommendation. He is Wang Jianxi's biological son, and he dare not pat his chest and guarantee that it will be done. The current popularity of the zoo is mainly in Yangchuan City and the province. Relying on several news such as the Xiangjiang robbery incident and the live broadcast platform facing the whole universe, it has a certain influence in the country, but it is not big enough to offset the rigid conditions of the scenic spot selection. When the company's reputation is really big and the zoo becomes a household name, then all the standards and conditions will be nonsense. If you don't want it, the Tourism Bureau will rush to send for a scenic spot sign. Instead of following the official routine and wasting your energy to beg the other party, it is better to grow yourself. The martial arts competition is one of the many plans to promote the zoo. It has brought about the retro cultural trend in Yangchuan City. This is a good phenomenon. The martial arts competition has been on the right track. Let it continue to grow healthily. There is no need to exhaust the pond for the selection of 4A and desperately squeeze the value at the beginning. There is another thing, Director. If we want to select, there is a hurdle that I am afraid we can't get around, Sister Tong said. The number of animals. Su Ming nodded. Yangchuan Zoo currently has 108 species of animals, 2212/head, which is a very auspicious number, 108. Tiangang de Shaoyangshan heroes. Most of them are birds, more than 1,000 of them, with sparrows, crows and other common birds being the most numerous. Speaking of sparrows, Su Ming was speechless. Tourists come to see animals just to see something strange. Large, weird-looking, or even ferocious animals are the most attractive. Compared with reptiles, primates, etc., most of the birds, except for macaws, peacocks, and other outliers, are actually less attractive to tourists. Therefore, there were not many birds in the zoo before, only about 400. In the past year, the food conditions of the zoo's animals have become better and better, and there are often surpluses, which has attracted many sparrows, crows, and magpies wandering on the edge of the city in the mountains to settle down in the zoo. There are many large and small woods in the park. These guys are almost shameless. They build nests and settle down in the woods without the zoo's consent. There are bird nests everywhere in the treetops and branches in the woods. Every time Su Ming passes through the woods, he has to wear a hat to prevent being hit by shit. Except for birds, there are not many animals left in the zoo, less than 1,000. Too few animals and too few species have always been a major flaw in the development of Yangchuan Zoo. Even if it is not for the selection of 4A or 5A, it is necessary to increase the number of animals just from the perspective of the development and growth of the zoo. Otherwise, no matter how well the zoo surroundings are developed, it has little to do with the animals, and it will lose the characteristics of the zoo itself, and instead become the main attraction. At the same time, the more animals there are in the zoo, the better Su Ming's mental power will develop, and animals also have a reverse promotion effect on mental power. There are actually not many ways to increase the number of animals in the zoo. It was most convenient when zoos were first established in various places a few decades ago. Local troops and militias helped and went directly to the mountains to catch them. Of course, it is impossible to do so now. The most common method is for the original animals to reproduce themselves, such as huia, or rescue animals that are illegally sold and transported, such as the group of dogs in the back mountain. If you are lucky, you will find injured animals in the wild and bring them back for treatment, such as the Yangtze River dolphin family. But no matter which method, the growth rate is very slow, especially for those rare animals, whose reproductive capacity is weak, and there are not many left in the world, so it is not easy to encounter them. Director, there is actually another way. Sister Tong offered a suggestion enthusiastically. Ah! What way? Su Ming saw that Sister Tong was talking in a mysterious way, and his curiosity was also aroused by her. By it, Sister Tong said. Ah! Sister, don't urge me to break the law. Su Ming was speechless. What a joke, buying animals. There is no point in setting up a zoo for animals that can be bought and sold. It also harms those little guys who originally lived freely in disguise. Rare animals that need protection are basically prohibited from being bought and sold by the state. Of course not from China. Sister, you are getting more and more ridiculous. Am I smuggling? Su Ming thought to himself, I am just bored. Why am I telling Sister Tong all this? No, Director, let me tell you, some animals in small national zoos can be sold. The black panther in our zoo was bought by the director from the UAE Zoo a long time ago, Sister Tong said. Su Ming knew the black panther. It was quite funny, locked in a large glass room. As long as a tourist carried it on his back, it would make standard hunting movements, sneak up to the tourist, and then pounce, and hit the tempered glass with a bang. This scene has appeared countless times in the live broadcast. Even though there was tempered glass blocking it, the black panther did not change its nature. Sister, we are not going to buy just one or two, but at least hundreds of animals. Do you remember how much the old director spent on the black panther? Su Ming rolled his eyes. At that time, a Chinese tourist business group cooperated with the UAE to build an oil field. The old director was just a bystander, and the money for the panther was paid by the business group. If the price offered by the UAE was really followed, even if the old director was sold, it would not be enough to buy the black panther. Even with Su Ming's current financial resources, it is impossible to purchase animals in large quantities through international transactions. Director, let's not go to the United Arab Emirates. They are too rich there, and they don't make money by buying animals, so of course they are expensive. We have to find those countries that are so poor that they can't even sustain their government spending. Sister Tong said as she took out a newspaper mysteriously and pointed to an inconspicuous news item on the corner of the newspaper. Look at this. What? Su Ming took it and looked at it. The news item was very short. It probably said that due to the wars every year, some countries in the Middle East were unable to sustain their local zoo expenses and invested all their money in the war. The animals in the zoos and protected areas lived in extremely poor conditions, were starving to the point of skin and bones, and even suffered from cannibalism, which attracted the attention of some animal protection organizations in the world. There was also a chapter with a picture of a Syrian zoo. In the picture, a tiger that was so thin that it was out of shape was gnawing on the body of another tiger. The two tigers were actually a husband and wife. Sister, you are joking too much. Su Ming really collapsed this time. Yes, those countries that are at war can't even raise enough military funds, so how can they afford to raise animals? The animals in zoos and protected areas are a big burden for the local government. If someone is willing to buy them, the local government will definitely be happy. If they can purchase in large quantities, the price will definitely be very low. This is predictable. The problem is that those places are at war. Even the government army can't control the domestic situation, and the unpeacekeeping forces can't ensure their own safety there. There are bullets flying everywhere. If you go there to buy animals, aren't you tired of living? Especially Syria, what a joke, that is the headquarters of the world's largest terrorist organization, is country. Su Ming has mental power and can control animals, but he is still a mortal body after all. After being nourished by mental power and Tai Sui water, his physical fitness has improved. At best, he is just an ordinary person who is a little bit stronger. Even Su Meng is far inferior. It is too dangerous to run to a place where there are bullets flying everywhere. A rhino might not die if it gets shot, but if Su Ming gets shot, damn it, if it was a rifle, his thigh would be shot off. And the people there are unreasonable, they take hostages at any time and treat people as slaves. Not to mention the terrorists, even the government troops may become bandits at any time to make money. It's not that giving some money can solve the problem. I'm living a good life, and I'm crazy and running to the terrorist base. That's just making things difficult for myself. Seeing that Sister Tong was still thinking hard, Su Ming slapped his forehead and thought, "Sister, your work enthusiasm can't be lowered, can't you let me have a few days of peace? Now the martial arts competition is going well, and the zoo is booming in all aspects. It's so hot, do we have to talk about work? If you say you don't want to talk about work, then don't talk about work. That's how willful you are. Go back to the waterside pavilion, take off your coat, put on a pair of big shorts, jump in the small lake to soak in the water for a while, put on your clothes, and stroll around." After a short stroll, they arrived at the Tingfeng Pavilion Hotel, which was almost completed. Recently, Su Ming had nothing to do, so he would secretly go to Tingfeng Pavilion without telling Nangong Yan. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 445. In life, eating and drinking are the two words, and if we expand it, food, sex and nature. The construction of Tingfeng Pavilion has come to an end, and the basic construction is almost done, but it has not yet opened to the public. The workload of the chief supervisor Hong Fei has been reduced a lot after a period of recuperation. The injury on her thigh has basically recovered, so Su Ming often comes here to eat. This is food. As for sex, although Hong Fei cannot be touched, this beautiful cook is still very pleasing to the eye. Sitting by the lake, eating delicious food and looking at beautiful girls is a great enjoyment in life. There is no room for two tigers in one mountain, and the same is true for a tigress. One is stunning, and the other is a beauty. When they are together, it will become a palace fight. And Nangong Yan has a biggest weakness. She is really not good at cooking. Su Ming was forced to eat Nangong Yan's dishes several times. After eating, his three views changed significantly in a short period of time. He felt that life was hopeless and almost despaired of life. And the dishes cooked by Hong Fei are really addictive. Therefore, Su Ming never brought Nangong Yan to Tingfeng Pavilion for dinner. He even worried about how he would live after marrying Nangong in the future. He couldn't sneak out to find another woman every time it was time to eat, could he? Life is always so unsatisfactory. As soon as he turned a corner along the Shuahun Lake, he saw Nangong Huang squatting at the gate smoking, with cigarette butts all over the floor. Wang Ke and Defoe had come here at some point, and they were squatting beside Nangong Huang with their tongues sticking out. At first glance, they looked like three stone lions guarding the gate. Seeing Su Ming coming, the two wolfhounds ran over happily, stood up, and pounced on Su Ming. These two guys now look like calves, and they can even lie on Su Ming's shoulders when they stand up, and he almost threw them into the river. Hey, 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 don't be impulsive. Su Ming quickly rubbed the heads of the two dogs, turned around and asked Nangong Huang, "Why are you squatting here? Wait for dinner, there will be crystal sweet and sour pork tonight." Nangong Huang came to Tingfeng Pavilion to eat and drink more than Su Ming. Can't mention it at all. Just hearing him say this, Su Ming's mind appeared a plate of sweet and sour pork wrapped in transparent ice crystals, and his mouth was watering. Why are you waiting here? Go in. Su Ming was about to take the dog to Tingfeng Pavilion, but when he pushed the door, he found that the two lattice doors were locked from the inside. Huh, Su Ming was stunned. It's not that Nangong Huang didn't want to go in, but that he couldn't go in at all. It's almost time for dinner. Where did Hong Fi Fei go? Shopping. It seems that this beautiful chef doesn't have this hobby. After getting familiar with her, Su Ming found that this beautiful chef, who seemed to be able to control the universe as long as she had a kitchen knife in her hand, was actually quite a homebody. She bought clothes and cosmetics online, and cooked whenever she had time. Her love for the kitchen far exceeded CBD. Just thinking about it, a figure flashed in front of the door, and with a creak, the door opened. Huh. Ah. The people in front of and behind the door said an interjection at the same time. Ding Dong Niu and Hong Fi Fei from Xian Qile stood side by side at the door, and Su Ming stood at the gate. The two sides were separated by a threshold, and 6 eyes stared at each other. Oh! Su Ming uttered another meaningful interjection. Ding Jing still had that arrogant expression, with a stern face. Hong Fi Fei was a little thin-skinned, and when Su Ming stared at her, her oval face flushed. Boss Ding, he, hello. Su Ming's good was not a greeting, but a compliment to you for doing a good job. I paid for the chef, and you, Ding Dong Niu, came here whenever I wanted. Isn't it inappropriate? Although leaders cannot interfere with the free love of subordinates, subordinates can't just do it in broad daylight in the office with the door closed. It will have a bad impact. Ding Jing didn't say anything, and Hong Fi Fei explained in a panic, Boss Su, we're about to open the business, Boss Ding, I'm discussing the menu. Su Ming almost laughed when he saw her stuttering and trying to cover up something. Su Ming didn't expose her, but Ding Jing glared at her and said to Hong Fi Fei with a straight face, okay, he's not a fool. You idiot, you've never lied since you were a child. Hong Fi Fei almost cried because of what she said. Su Ming. What's going on? Everyone knows about the two of them, but no one has taken the initiative to say it. But looking at Ding Jing's appearance, is she not going to hide it anymore? Boss Su, come in and chat for a while. Ding Jing turned sideways and made way. Su Ming looked into the Tingfeng Pavilion, and there was no one inside. However, the door on the first floor facing the water surface of the Water Army Lake was wide open. There was a carved wooden table on the water platform outside, with tea and cakes on it. It seemed that I had misunderstood. The two of them should have been sitting at the table and chatting. Oh, Su Ming didn't know what Ding Dong Niu wanted to talk about. Just as he stepped into the door, he suddenly thought of something and turned around and shouted, Nangong Huang, aren't you tired of squatting there? Come in with me. What does he know as a child? Stay at the door, Ding Jing said. Nangong Huang gave a middle finger and said, Tisk, I don't understand. What don't I understand? You two are just talking about that little thing. Who cares to listen to it? Only my brother-in-law is kind enough to listen to your nagging. If you ask me, women should keep their duties. I don't care whether you are lesbians or gay. Anyway, you can't have children. It's just a waste of time. Just don't forget to cook, brother-in-law, don't worry. I will pretend that I didn't see or hear anything today. I will never tell my sister that you are alone with these two lesbians. Ding Dong Niu was stunned by Nangong Wang's choking, her face turned pale, and it took her a long time to react. She glared at him fiercely, why don't you go to the talk show? Okay, stop talking nonsense. Su Ming hurriedly stepped into the door. Although Nangong Huang is handsome, he is vicious and speaks without restraint. If he continues to talk, Ding Dong Niu might get gynecological diseases from this guy. As soon as she entered the door, Ding Daniu slammed the door from the back and put the bolt on it. Boss Su, sit outside. Phi Fei, go make tea and prepare dinner. I'll chat with Boss Su for a few words. Ding Jing acted like the head of the family. Oh Hong Phi Fei looked like a little wife, lowered her head and dodged, and walked to the kitchen in the back with small steps. Su Ming was stunned. It was true that appearance was not the best way to judge a person. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, who would have thought that Ding Daniu, a beautiful woman in the business world of Yangchuan City, was actually like a man behind the scenes. Hong Phi Fei, a proud girl in the culinary world, would be ordered around like a little maid by someone's words. After sitting down at the table on the platform, Ding Jing lit a lady's cigarette, held the cigarette between her two slender fingers, and took a deep puff. Boss Su, you should know the relationship between Phi Fei and me, right? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 446. Isn't this nonsense? Even Nangang Huang, a half-grown child, can see clearly what happened between you and Hong Phi Fei. What else do I not know? Su Ming pondered in silence, took a sip of the tea on the table, did not answer directly, and motioned her to continue. Although Ding Daniu's orientation is a bit abnormal, she has been immersed in the business world for many years and her mind is definitely normal. Since she opened her mouth, she would not just ask this simple question, and she must have something to say later. Sure enough, without waiting for Su Ming to answer, Ding Daniu continued to speak, as if she was talking to Su Ming, but also as if she was talking to herself. By the Shuahun Lake, with long hair draped over her shoulders and green smoke curling, a girl faced the lake and recalled the past. That year, Ding Daniu was only 19 years old. Her parents in her rural hometown arranged a marriage for her. The other party was a professional pig farmer in the county. The family conditions were very good and the person was actually good looking. But Ding Daniu seemed to be not very interested in men since then, so she ran away from marriage and went to the city to work as an apprentice, working as a waiter in Hungjiake. Because she was hard-working and able to endure hardships, and understood the ways of the world, Ding Jing was soon appreciated by Hongbo, whose career was on the rise at the time, and was promoted to the department manager of Hungjiake. With the help of the capable Ding Jing, Hongbo's burden on his shoulders was much lighter. He was widowed at an early age and raised his daughter alone. Hong Phi Fei was only 14 years old at the time, and she had already shown extraordinary talent for cooking, but she had no interest in business. She was more than enough to be a top chef, but if such a big stall of Hungjiake was handed over to his daughter to manage, it would probably go bankrupt soon. So Hongbo prepared for the future and began to make plans for the future. He even had the idea of giving Ding Jing a part of the shares in the future, letting her become a professional manager of Hungjiake and be responsible for the operation, and letting his daughter Hong Phi Fei become the major shareholder. Of course, it would be even better if he could recruit a capable son-in-law in the future. In view of this, Hongbo observed Ding Jing for a while. After he determined that this woman was trustworthy, he began to train Ding Jing with all his strength. He not only taught her business skills, but also gradually introduced her to various relationships in the Hong family. He even taught her the secret recipes of Hong family dishes. Ding Jing was indeed a grateful person. Not only did she work hard in business, but she also saw that it was not easy for Hongbo, a middle-aged man, to raise a daughter alone. Whenever she had some free time, she would help Hongbo with household affairs and help him take care of Hong Phi Fei. After a while, Ding Jing and the Hong family almost became a family. Ding Jing was mature at a young age. In front of Hong Phi Fei, she was like a big sister and a mother. When Su Ming heard this, he already had a feeling that the relationship between the three people at that time was more or less weird. If there is something going on between Dingjing and Hongbo, and they are developing towards a stepmother, then that is not the case. After all, Dingjing has not liked men since then, and from Dingjing's words, it can be heard that Hongbo was busy with socializing all day, and his feelings for his ex-wife were very deep, and he seemed to have no time to consider other things. But it seems wrong to say that there is no sign at all. People are not iron or stone, who can be ruthless. Su Ming is also a man. If he were to change places with Hongbo at that time, and have such a young, capable, and kind girl to help him take care of the family, even if he doesn't say it, he will inevitably feel palpitations in his heart. This is the relationship between Huang Yaoshi and Mei Chaofeng. If the plot had continued to develop as it was, maybe after a few years, Hongbo's feelings for his ex-wife would have gradually faded, and it would have been a perfect ending for a warm family drama at 8 o'clock, with the lily being straightened, the middle-aged man blooming a second spring, and the little Lolita finding a new mother. Unexpectedly, the style of the story changed and the plot developed in the direction of abusing the protagonist. No, strictly speaking, the protagonist was changed. Just like the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, in the first fifth, I thought Zhang Qiushan and Yin Susu were the protagonists, but as soon as the real protagonist Zhang Wuji appeared, these two were destined to be supporting roles. Hong Fifei was only 14 years old when she met Ding Jing, which was the age of adolescence when both the body and the mind were developing rapidly, and the heart was beating wildly. Boys and girls of this age have not yet fully established their values, like a piece of pure white drawing paper, which is easily affected. Moreover, Hong Fifei lost her mother when she was young, and what she lacked most was maternal love. According to some psychological viewpoints, Hong Fifei was extremely insecure in her heart. Her talent in cooking and her toughness in the face of other chefs were actually a kind of self-protection. Ding Jing is not much older than Hong Fifei, but there is definitely a difference between an adult and a minor, which just fills the blank in Hong Fifei's heart. Soon, she changed from a colleague of my father to a spiritual mentor and a role to rely on in life. Needless to say, Su Ming has already guessed 70% of the following story. Hong Fifei gradually became dependent on her elder sister Ding Jing in her contact with her. A talented and beautiful girl was turned gay alive. Damn it, Su Ming took a breath of cold air. How old was Hong Fifei at that time? How could Ding Jing do it? I didn't expect her to be such a big sister. I really don't understand the world of lesbians. Ding Jing and Hong Fifei played kissing games at home several times, and they were caught by Hongbo at first. Hongbo didn't take it too seriously, just thinking that the two little girls were playing, but gradually he found something wrong. Rumors about the abnormal relationship between the two girls were also rife inside Hung Jiake. The truth can't be hidden. Hongbo investigated and soon figured out the situation. Once he pretended to be on a business trip and returned home halfway. As soon as he entered the bedroom, he saw a scene that would give him nightmares for the rest of his life. After that, I was fired and came to Yangchuan City to start my own business. Of course, I also relied on the social connections I had gained from Hung Jiake. At the beginning of my career, it was inevitable that I had some conflicts with Hung Jiake, and the grudges between the two sides became deeper and deeper. Later, Hung Jiake went downhill, while Xianqi Le Group was thriving. I was also hot-headed at the time and proposed to acquire Hung Jiake for some unknown reason. On the one hand, I wanted to give the Hong family a good end, and on the other hand, I wanted to vent my anger. Of course, Hongbo refused and scolded me on the phone. Fifei was a filial daughter. In order not to make her father angry, she cut off contact with me. Now Hung Jiake has completely closed down, and her father's resentment towards me is probably deeper than before. Oh, so, now the emperor is far away, Hongbo is not here, you two can use this place to have a tryst. Su Ming nodded. He was too lazy to distinguish right from wrong in the matter between these two women. As long as it does not affect normal work, they can have a tryst. Anyway, as Nangong Huang said, no matter how they make trouble, they will not have a child. No, Mr. Su, that's not what I mean. If it's just to borrow a place to meet, I can buy a house for Fifei in the city. I can still take out this money. Ding Jing suddenly turned her head, a pair of phoenix eyes flashed with a strange light, staring at Su Ming, and said word by word, "There is something, I need your help." Ah, Su Ming was shocked, and then he was overjoyed. "Do you want me to help you give birth to a baby?" Wow, ha 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 ha. Division. Is there anyone who wants to help give birth to a baby? Group purchases can be discounted, dear. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 447. No matter how much trouble you two have, can you still produce a child? Nangong Huang said this more than once, and his words were rough but not rough. Not only Nangong Huang thinks so, almost everyone who knows the true relationship between Hong Fifei and Ding Jing, including Su Ming, has this view. Same-sex marriage is not allowed in China, and it is impossible for these two girls to have a child. No matter how you do it, it will be nothing more than fooling around for a while, and there will be no results. Ding Jing had been acting weird from the beginning today. Su Ming felt that something was going to happen at that time, so when she showed a strange expression and seriously said, "Do me a favor," Su Ming's first reaction was, "Give birth to a monkey." Isn't that right? Apart from this, what else can I, a man, do to help the two of them? If a monkey really comes out, then it is really possible that these two girls will be together for the rest of their lives. Of course, they will still be together in a very weird way. The question is, with whom? Su Ming dragged his chin, turned around and looked at Ding Niu across the table with interest. In the past, she had always been regarded as a strong woman with an average personality. The overall impression given to Su Ming was that of being capable, which covered up her other characteristics. Now from another angle, if you look carefully, you will find that Ding Daniu is very feminine and well maintained. Her skin is moist and smooth, and there is not even a wrinkle on her face. The age of 30 is like a blooming peony. It is the time when a woman is full of charm. Compared with a shy young girl, both in terms of temperament and body curves, although there is less youthfulness, there is more a strong scent of charm. To put it bluntly, when a man first sees a young girl in her early 20s, he will have an urge to have a romantic love affair with her, and for a woman of Ding Niu's age, the first time a man sees her is when I saw it, I subconsciously wanted to have a vigorous sex with her. And Ding Jing is definitely not just a beautiful mature woman whose light can arouse people's desire. Years of hard work in society have given her a kind of beauty that has accumulated, and the identity and background of the group boss and a strong businesswoman, it will also arouse men's desire to conquer. The only trouble is that at Ding Niu's age, she seems to be a little older for giving birth to a monkey, and she belongs to an older woman. As for Hong Fifei, her age is just right. This beautiful cook usually looks like an arrogant little queen when she picks up a small kitchen knife, but just now in front of Ding Daniu, she looked like an ignorant and well-behaved little loli. The legendary contrasting cuteness is also stimulating to men. It's so huge that I can't help but push it for some love. But, it's just something to think about. Ahem, Mr. Su, what are you looking at? Ding Jing coughed twice. Although she didn't say it directly, she probably guessed Su Ming's dirty little thoughts, and her face looked unnatural. Turned towards the lake. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Su Ming's Wawa intestines were torn out, and his thoughts returned to reality. The situation is like this. Fifei's father knows that I am in Yangchuan City, so he has always opposed her working in Yangchuan and insisted that Fifei go back to his hometown with him. But Fifei is not willing, and of course I am not willing either, Ding Jing said. I don't want to either, Su Ming shrugged. I spent a lot of effort to ask Master Hong to help. Besides, to be honest, even after breaking up the two of you, she still doesn't like men. In the end, even if in order to make her father feel at ease, she forced herself to marry someone else, and it might lead to a tragedy. Mr. Su, you are a sensible person, so I am willing to tell you these things. Ding Jing nodded and said, parents always hope that their children will live according to their ideas, thinking that only then will they be happy, but have they considered their children's feelings? Su Ming smiled and said nothing. Then have you considered the feelings of other people's parents? Besides, will I be happy if I follow you, Lily? If all women in the world were like this, I would be the first to refuse. There are already more men than women, and young men are struggling to be single. If they say they can't rob the rich, handsome, or rich, they will hold their noses and admit it. But if even women can come and rob men. I have a girlfriend, I can't stand this. Ding Jing didn't know what Su Ming was thinking. Seeing that Su Ming didn't say anything, she thought Su Ming sympathized with their experience, and then said, so, I want to ask you a favor. Pretend to be Nangong's boyfriend. In this way, her father was naturally relieved when he saw that she had a boyfriend. When Su Ming heard this, he almost rolled his eyes to the sky. Boring. Too boring. Not only is it boring, it's uninteresting, and it's also very cliché. What era is this in? Are you still using plot points from Kaianyao dramas from the 1990s? I originally thought that Ding Daniu was a pioneer in the relationship between men and women, a leader of the trend, a leader who was ahead of the times. Who would have thought that she would come up with such a bad idea? It's better to be active and open-minded. If you really give birth to a monkey, this matter will be completely solved. No, Su Ming refused. Why? Ding Jing frowned and said angrily, do you think Fifei is not worthy of you? Otherwise, you can be my boyfriend. That won't work, Su Ming shook his head again, I have never been a shield. Counterfeiters are worse than spare tires. Ding Jing hesitated for a moment, as if she had made a lot of determination, gritted her teeth and said, except for not being able to have a real relationship, usually in front of others, I will try my best to cooperate with you. If you have any requirements, I will also. You misunderstood me, Su Ming interrupted Ding Jing, I have a girlfriend, a serious girlfriend. I just asked you to pretend, not to really date Fifei, Ding Jing said. I can't pretend, if my girlfriend knows, she will be sad, Su Ming frowned. If Nangong said that he pretended to be someone's girlfriend to help a friend, he might pretend to be generous, but he would never feel good in his heart. And girls are more delicate and think differently from men. If it were me, I would be unhappy at most, but if it was Nangong, who knows what she would think and how sad she would be. You are so pampering your girlfriend, do you still have any manliness? Ding Jing snorted. Boss Ding, provoking is useless. Even if you say I am a coward, I can't do it, Su Ming said. Ding Jing's trick was discovered, so she could only smile apologetically and said, then don't let her know. Su Ming smiled, looked at the lake in the distance, and said as if talking to himself, you don't know the past between me and my girlfriend. She accompanied me all the way when I was in the most difficult time. At that time, I couldn't find a job, and I almost had no house to live in. The temperature in the dormitory was over 40 degrees. Even my best buddy Wang Hao went home. Only she came to see me and accompany me almost every day. I didn't pay much attention to her at that time. There were many men with good conditions chasing her, but she never pretended to be nice. In order to consider my feelings, she even embarrassed the other party directly. And now, although she often loses her temper in front of me, I know in my heart that she has regarded me as the only one. I am the mountain worth relying on in her heart. Su Ming turned his head, looked at Ding Jing, and asked calmly, Boss Ding, you are also a woman. Tell me from your conscience, if I have some money now, instead of doing my best to protect her, I hurt her instead, can you still look down on me? Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 448. This. Ding Jing was speechless. Yes, it is true that she likes women, but it does not mean that she is a man. Apart from her orientation, her psychology is the same as that of ordinary women, and she is not lacking in the delicate thoughts that women should have. Most men in the world, when they have no money, clamor to be good to you for the rest of their lives. That is basically because they are relatively good to others, but others will not do it. As for this one, they may not pay attention to him. When they are successful and surrounded by beautiful women, few men can remember their original promises and withstand the temptation of the world of flowers. If Su Ming really agreed easily because he wanted to take advantage of something, or even wanted to have something with Hong Fei or her, then in Ding Jing's eyes, Su Ming is just an ordinary upstart. Everyone has desires, and those who can overcome their desires in order to stick to something worth cherishing are truly powerful people. Ding Jing stared at Su Ming's slightly young profile, and her heart moved slightly for no reason. Instead of being annoyed by Su Ming's rejection of her proposal, she admired Su Ming a little. If you rely on people, they will run away. If you rely on mountains, they will fall. It is precisely because there are too many unreliable people in the world that it shows how precious it is to have someone who is worth relying on. Besides, Hong Fei is already in her 20s. Does it make sense that she must go back just because her father asks her to? Su Ming continued. Ding Jing smiled bitterly. I don't know the situation between you and your girlfriend, and you don't know the situation of her family. Fei's mother died very early. When she was a child, she said to her father, if you find a new mother, I won't call you dad anymore. Her father was afraid that she would be wronged, so he never remarried. She didn't understand it before, but when she grew up, she felt that she owed her father too much, so, if her father really spoke with a stern face, Fei would listen. Is that so? Su Ming touched his chin and thought for a while, then suddenly smiled and pointed to the direction outside the Tingfeng pavilion behind him. Otherwise, what about Nangong Huang? Ding Jing and asked back, do you think it's possible? Oh, yes, it doesn't seem appropriate. Su Ming also smiled. If Hong Fei is with Ding Jing, at most, she has a problem with her sexual orientation. If she is with Nangong Huang, then she has a problem with her brain. People can have problems in all areas, but not in their brains. There are medicines to cure any disease, and even if they can't be cured, they can be delayed for a while. Only brain damage cannot be cured. It's not that Nangong Huang is not good, but he and Hong Fei are completely incompatible. It's like Lin Huiyan and boxing champion Tyson together. What kind of picture would that be? Let's not talk about whether your brother-in-law is willing to do it. Even if the two of them are willing to pretend, Hong Fei's father is not a fool. He can see at a glance that Hong Fei is acting to deceive him. I think you are the most suitable. You are the same age as Fei, you are handsome, successful in your career, and you are her boss. The two of you spend a lot of time together and fall in love with each other. Ding Jing continued to launch an offensive. It's useless for you to flatter me. There is no wall that is impenetrable. If I agree, even if I just pretend in front of Hong Fei's father, my girlfriend will find out sooner or later. Su Ming quickly signaled her to stop. The question froze for a moment. Su Ming drank the tea in the cup in one gulp, stood up, and said, Mr. Ding, if there is nothing else, I will leave first. As I said, it's okay for you two to date at my place. I can't help you with anything else. If it doesn't work, you two should immigrate. It seems that same-sex marriage is legal in the United States. After that, he strode out of Tingfeng Pavilion. Your idea is worse than letting Nangong Huang impersonate. Ding Jing muttered. Brother-in-law, they didn't do anything to you, did they? Nangong Huang waited at the door for a long time. When he saw Su Ming coming out, he greeted him and asked with concern. What can I do? There are still 2 people on the other side in such a short time. You underestimate your brother-in-law too much, Su Ming said. He. Brother-in-law, you are so shameless. You have led me astray. Nangong Huang grinned and poked his head into the Tingfeng pavilion. When is the meal? Su Ming hugged Nangong Huang's neck and dragged him out of the zoo. I'm afraid we can't eat. Come on, call your sister and take you to the city to eat. What's so good about eating out? Tony, that stupid foreigner, always eats in big restaurants. Don't we have Hong Fi Fei? Nangong Huang muttered dissatisfiedly. After Su Ming left, Hong Fi Fei came out of the back kitchen. Ding Jing glanced at her and raised her chin towards the seat opposite. I said he wouldn't agree. Hong Fi Fei came over and sat down side by side. She was hiding in the back kitchen just now, and the people in front were talking about her lifelong event. How could she have the mind to cook? She was eavesdropping at the wall all the time. You are so smart. Humph, I didn't expect you to be such a determined man. Ding Jing turned around and said with a jealous tone, you know him well. What nonsense are you talking about? I just saw him with his girlfriend. That feeling, I can't say. Anyway, you will know if you see him a few times. Hong Fi Fei said. Well? Little girl, do you really like him? Ding Jing turned her head little by little, narrowed her eyes, and looked at Hong Fi Fei carefully. Hong Fi Fei was so anxious that her face turned pale and red, and said, if you keep talking nonsense, I will ignore you for a week. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Ding Jing laughed and quickly reached out to pinch Hong Fi Fei's face. Humph. I hate it so much. Hong Fi Fei wiped her face and said anxiously, what should I do then? Ding Jing didn't say what to do, but sighed and said, Fei, you are not young anymore. If you still like men, who do you like? You must tell me, I will bless you. If you keep talking nonsense, I will never see you again. How can you be like this? Hong Fi Fei stood up suddenly, stamped her feet in anger, pointed at the water army lake in front of her and said, I am so anxious, and you are deliberately making me angry. Do you believe I will jump from here? Okay, I won't tease little Fi Fei anymore. Ding Jing also stood up and hugged Hong Fi Fei's waist from behind. Hong Fi Fei pouted and hummed, twisted a few times, and didn't break free, so she let Ding Jing go, but her face gradually softened. The two stood facing the lake in the sunset for a while, enjoying this rare peaceful time. Does our behavior look like the last farewell in the movie? Hong Fi Fei said sadly. Silly girl, Ding Jing bit Hong Fi Fei's earlobe gently, then whispered to Hong Fi Fei's ear, if you really don't like him, I have an idea, but I'm afraid you won't be able to let him go. What idea? As long as I can be with you, why would I be reluctant? After Hong Fi Fei finished speaking, her heart suddenly beat wildly. Did she want me to really Su Ming? How can I do this? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 449. Brother-in-law, are you kidding me? Why did Hong Fi Fei leave? Was it because she didn't give her enough money, or were you bullying her behind her back? Nangong Huang almost jumped when he heard the news that Hong Fi Fei might leave. I'm bullying her. There's something going on at home. What can I do? I'm the boss, not a slave owner. I can't stop her from leaving. Su Mingqi said, why are you so excited? You don't really like her, right? I'm attracted to her legs, Nangong Huang said. If she leaves, what will we eat in the future? We can't fly across provinces just for a meal. That's true. Su Ming was also very depressed and couldn't mention it. He was filled with tears when he mentioned it. Isn't this a lie? Now I eat the food she cooks and it's all good to me. Nangong Huang beat his chest and said, oh my god, I should have known better than to be greedy in the first place, but now I have to stop it. Me too. We're all in trouble. Su Ming looked like a martyr about to go to the execution ground, and patted Nangong Huang's shoulder with a tragic face. Let's work hard together and try to quit as soon as possible. Come on, brother-in-law, my brother can't quit smoking for 2 consecutive days. Nangong Huang had no fighting spirit at all, and said depressedly, you still have a helicopter after all, so you can sneak out for a meal every now and then. I'll be in trouble, brother-in-law. I'm asking you a favor. If you go to eat secretly next time, can you pack some for me and bring them back? I'll eat your leg. How can you talk? Su Ming raised his hand, pretending to hit him. No, 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 I'm just saying it. Nangong Huang was so frightened that he ran back. It's strange to say that Nangong Huang has never been afraid of being beaten by his father since he was a child, but when Su Ming put on a straight face and raised his hands, he really felt a little confused. Su Ming waved his hand before he dropped it. Stop talking nonsense, call your sister and ask her not to wander around after get off work. Call Tony, and we will fly to pick her up for dinner. Hee, okay, I don't know how envious my colleagues in their workplace will be. Brother-in-law, please make my sister look good. Nangong Huang took out his cell phone and was about to dial a number. Before he could make a call, there was a rapid sound of high heels hitting the ground behind him. Mr. Su, wait for me. Ding Jing was wearing a half-step skirt and took small steps to catch up from the riverside path. She was tired and panting. As soon as she ran up to him, seeing that her foot was sprained, there was a crisp sound, one of the roots of her high heels was broken, and she almost fell down. Su Ming quickly supported her and said, call me if you need anything. It's not like you don't have my number. Why are you running over here in such a hurry? Thank you, calling doesn't seem sincere. Ding Jing held Su Ming with one hand, 1 foot independent, and took off the intact high-heeled shoe with the other hand, and smashed it against a big rock by the river, breaking the shoe. The high heels were also broken, and the 2 shoes became the same height again. I put them on again and stood up. So rich. Nangong Huang murmured to the side, Simon's shoes cost less than 20,000 yuan. Then who, Nangong Huang, can you help me buy a bottle of water? Thank you, Ding Jing said. Nangong Huang could tell that Ding Jing was clearly trying to get rid of him and have something to say to Su Ming alone, so he rolled his eyes and walked away unsteadily. As soon as he left, Ding Jing said, Mr. Su, what we talked about just now. No way. Let alone a pair of Salmon's shoes, even if her Hermes skirt fell off, Su Ming would not agree. Listen to me. Ding Jing helped Su Ming sit on the big rock by the lake and asked, the reason why you are unwilling is not because you are discriminating against us, but because you don't want to hurt your girlfriend, right? Yes. Su Ming nodded. Although I don't agree with it, everyone has the right to choose their own lifestyle, as long as it doesn't break the law, doesn't violate morality, and doesn't harm others. But what happened between the two of them, well, it's hard to say. At least it hurt Hong Fei's father. I have a way that will never hurt my girlfriend, Ding Jing said. How can there be a wall that is airtight? Su Ming didn't believe it. Don't worry, there's no wind at all. Ding Jing said mysteriously, you don't need to admit that you are Fei's boyfriend. If you don't want to, you don't even have to have any contact with Fei. Ah, this time it was Su Ming's turn to wonder. If he doesn't admit it or contact him, what kind of boyfriend is this? How to lie to her father? Ding Jing took out a small round white stone the size of a pigeon egg from her small handbag and handed it to Su Ming. Su Ming had seen this small white stone in Zhao Yun's museum. It was called Tridacna, pronounced floating channel. It was a not too rare gemstone and one of the 7 treasures of Buddhism. Its biggest feature was that it was white. The pure whiteness is regarded as the best in the world. It has the functions of holding down the house, attracting wealth, nourishing the body, calming the mind, and stabilizing the aura. It is said that the tridacna, which is more than 1,000 years old, can also emit a powerful magnetic field, which can enlighten the wearer. Wisdom, destroying troubles. Anyway, the teachings are quite magical. You make this thing into a small trinket and carry it with you. As long as her dad sees it, we don't need to say anything. Her dad will know that you are Fifei's crush. Even if anyone asks, you don't have to admit it. It's always unfair. It will hurt your girlfriend, Ding Jing said with certainty. In this case, it's okay. But, will his father believe it? Su Ming was puzzled. Definitely. This thing has its origins. The first generation of the Hong family's cooking god was given a 6th grade crown by the emperor. This turtle was on his official hat. When he died, the 6th grade crown was passed down as a family heirloom. Later, when the crown of the official hat was rotten, the Hong family kept the pearl on it and passed it down only to the eldest son of the eldest family member. When the 4 olds were destroyed, in order to preserve the pearl, her family kept it. 2 great-grandfathers have died. In Fifei's generation, there are no men. Her father passed it on to her and will leave it to her son in the future. Oh, I didn't mean that you are her son. Fifei can't even let me part with this baby. Here, if you take her with you, her father will understand that you are the man she has chosen. Su Ming held the clam in his hand and did not answer. Instead, he frowned slightly and stared down at the clam with strange eyes. Ding Jing thought Su Ming was hesitating, so he added a huge bargaining chip and said, Mr. Su, let me say something more vulgar. Fifei and I are together, and what's mine is hers. If you are willing to help, Cyclamen Group will be your closest ally in the market in the future. She completely misunderstood what Su Ming meant. The reason why Su Ming did not answer was because the moment he got the tridacna bead, the spiritual power in his body suddenly became restless. The mental power rushed towards the clam bead like a mental magnet, sucking the mental power into it. In the blink of an eye, less than half of the mental energy was absorbed, and it was still passing quickly. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 450. Su Ming was shocked. Since he acquired the ability of the animal friend, his mental power has been increasing slowly under normal circumstances. Even if it decreases, it is because he actively uses his mental power. He has never encountered a situation where his mental power is out of control and is sucked away. For Su Ming, the importance of mental power can be regarded as the internal power in martial arts novels, and it is even more important than internal power. All his abilities to manipulate and communicate with animals, including the ability to attach souls, are based on mental power. At this time, this lifeless giant clam is just like Ren Wuxing, who can absorb the stars. Without the consent of Su Ming, the master, it absorbs his mental power unreasonably. And the speed is terrifying. Today's Su Ming is no longer the poor man who would exhaust his mental power when dealing with dozens of bees. After more than a year of monkey wine, his mental power has accumulated to an astonishing level. If he releases his mental power without reservation, he can completely cover half of the zoo and communicate with thousands of animals at the same time. For more advanced animals like monkeys, it is absolutely no problem to control hundreds of them at the same time. If he encounters attacks from lower-level animals such as bees and mosquitoes, it can be said that as many as come within the coverage of his mental power will die. Even fierce beasts such as tigers, lions, and crocodiles can be easily suppressed by Su Ming in an instant. If measured by the ability to attach souls, he can easily contact Shanghai Dongqing within 30 kilometers. In other words, his current mental power can hardly find an opponent in the zoo. Since the new year this year, after a battle with poisonous snakes in the back mountain of Suntown, his mental power has almost never been forced to the point of exhaustion. In the past, When the mental power was relatively low, a can of large blue honey could be instantly replenished, or if he did nothing and rested for a day or two, it would be full. But now, even if he drinks more than a dozen cans of honey, it is not enough to replenish. Such a strong mental power was absorbed by the giant clam in just a few seconds, almost half of it. And it was still gushing out of the body crazily, which surprised Su Ming so much that Ding Jing later said that cyclamen was his closest ally and didn't notice it. Even if the mental power can be replenished, Su Ming still hates this feeling of being out of control. Gritting his teeth, he tried his best to stop the mental power from flowing out. Mr. Su. Mr. Su. Seeing that Su Ming was standing there like he was in a fixed body spell, sweating profusely, Ding Jing hurriedly pushed Su Ming. Ah! Oh oh! Su Ming came back to his senses. Strangely enough, when he didn't deliberately stop it, the mental power flowed crazily into the giant clam. He moved his mind and deliberately stopped it, and the mental power stopped flowing out all of a sudden. However, he could still feel the attraction from the giant clam. The giant clam was like a hungry monster, trying hard to suck out his spiritual power. Boss Su, are you okay? Ding Jing asked worriedly. Yeah, it's okay. Su Ming didn't have the heart to say anything more to Ding Jing, so he said, in that case, I can help you with this favor. I'll accept this bead. But I still say that I won't admit anything. Ding Jing was overjoyed. No problem. Boss Su, thank you for your help. You're welcome. I feel a little uncomfortable in my stomach. I'll leave first. Su Ming pretended to have a stomachache, holding the giant clam in one hand and covering his stomach with the other hand, and ran towards the Tingfeng water pavilion. Leaving Ding Jing alone, standing by the lake a little inexplicably. In less than 2 minutes, Nangong Huan came back with a bottle of pulse. Where's my brother-in-law? He has a stomachache and is gone. Ah! He had diarrhea before he even ate. Su Ming ran all the way back to the waterside pavilion and immediately closed the door. He released his mental power and asked the alligator snapping turtle in the water to climb ashore and block the door. No one was allowed to come in without his consent. He opened the refrigerator, which contained more than a dozen bottles of large blue honey. Although he could control his mental power to avoid being absorbed, Su Ming always felt uneasy if he didn't figure out what this giant clam was and why this happened. He had seen several giant clams at Zhao Yun's place before, and had played with them, but nothing had happened. Could it be that this was another upgrade and evolution of the ability of animal friends? But the last evolution was clearly that the energy from the fake nightlight pearl in the ancient tomb flowed into his body, giving him the ability to attach souls. Now it's the other way around, his mental power is flowing into the giant clam. Could it be that the mental power has met its nemesis? This giant clam can just restrain the mental power? He took a deep breath, relaxed his body, and stopped blocking the mental power in his body. Sure enough, the mental power was once again sucked into the giant clam vortex like a tide. In just a few breaths, the mental power in the body was completely absorbed by the giant clam. Su Ming could clearly feel that there was not even a trace of mental power left in the body, and it was squeezed out completely. And the giant clam seemed to be very intelligent. Maybe it was full, or maybe it found that there was no mental power to eat in its body, and the attraction disappeared at the same time. Huh? This is really weird. Su Ming was completely confused, holding the giant clam bead and looking left and right, almost licking it twice. He thought about it, took out a can of big blue honey and took a big sip. Fortunately, the bees improved it last time, so it is not so sweet, otherwise I would have choked to death with this bite. The mental power in the body slowly recovered a little, just like a little water was poured into an empty bucket, just covering the bottom of the bucket. There is obviously mental power in the body, but the giant clam is quiet now and no longer absorbs it. Is it because the mental power is too little? The giant clam is too lazy to absorb. Gulp, gulp, he drank the whole bottle. Even after improvement, such a big bottle still makes people feel a little nauseous. Su Ming grinned. The mental power in the body has recovered a lot. The giant clam still has no movement. This is even more puzzling. Could it be that the absorption capacity of this giant clam is just the same as his mental power level? This is too coincidental. If the enemy doesn't move, I have to move too. The giant clam didn't make any movement, but Su Ming was brave enough to separate a bit of his mental power and actively enter the giant clam. He thought with a bit of evil taste, since this guy is full, I will actively send in my mental power, and I don't know if he will vomit it out. Eat my food, spit it out. Unexpectedly, as soon as the mental power came into contact with the giant clam, Su Ming heard a boom in his mind. This mental power that was about to fill the giant clam to death was like a fuse, completely igniting the giant clam that was already full. A familiar energy instantly returned from the giant clam to Su Ming's body, turning into a light ball that only he could feel. This change is not easy to describe, but he can clearly feel that the light ball contains the mental power that was just absorbed by the giant clam. Naturally, he understood the outflow of the light ball. It is similar to the spare mental power warehouse. The amount is exactly the total mental power absorbed just now. If you want to use it, you can get it by breaking this light ball in your mind. I understand a little bit. Su Ming was overjoyed. This thing is indeed another upgrade of animal friends. The giant clam absorbed all of his mental power and fed it back to become his storage warehouse. In this way, when the mental power in his body is full, he will have twice the original mental power. But, mental power can't be used at all now. If it is just this ability, it seems too useless. Is there any special effect that has not been explored? Division. What happened today? There are so many rewards, it seems that it is even worse not to add more. Let's add 2 chapters to show our appreciation. Speaking of which, I was going to go on a blind date and I must be back very late at night. These 2 chapters are specially prepared for the draft. I thought about it. Blind dates are common, but rewards are not common, so I will finish adding more first. Although the 2 chapters are short, the friendship they contain is priceless.